Yes, hello. My name is Adam Arndt from Serienjunkies.de. I've been a fan of Rick and Morty since the first season. And yeah, thanks for talking to me today. I have my Rick bathrobe on today for the interview. And I was wondering, the show is going on to the 9th season now. So do you guys keep track of all the ongoing dramas with the different Ricks and Mortys and variants and Beth's, evil Beth and good Beth and all of that? Is there like a tracking chart somewhere where you can keep track of that? Or are you going in like and winging it just like that?
It's definitely a lot to keep track of. I think from an acting standpoint, just to make sure that I understand the story and where I'm coming from in any given recording session, I'm constantly checking with our writers to make sure I've got it right. I'm sure there are fans who have their corkboard behind them with all of the, the strings and markers to, keep it all straight and are really following the storyline. But I know and trust that the writers kind of have the whole world mapped out, and so my job is just to go and make sure that I understand it enough, at least to be able to get inside Rick's head. And it is cool when there's an episode where there's a different iteration of Rick, which we've seen in past seasons, Citadel episodes, things like that. We usually record each character straight through, so we'll do our main Rick, and then we might do, the boss hog Rick, separate all the way through. So at least I'm not getting confused and having to, face one way, do one version of Rick, face the other way, do the other version of Rick. So, but there's definitely a lot to keep track of, and yeah, excited to see where that goes in season 9.
And you, Sarah?
Yeah, for sure. Like Ian said, I mean, it's wild, all of the adventures that they've gone on, that they're going on, and we're actually recording, sometimes like season 9 hasn't aired, we're already recording season 10. Sometimes you'll be doing pickups from season 9 while you're recording season 10. So you've got to kind of keep track of where everybody's at. I find like you see the writer's visions even more when you get to watch the actual final cuts. Like when you read the script, you sort of have one version of it in your mind. So it's kind of cool because you get to experience Rick and Morty twice, once reading it and whatever your brain conjures up, and then once, when you watch it, because whatever the cloud sentient alien fart being looked like in your mind is going to be different how the animators draw it. But it's so complex. It's what I love about the show. I mean, I think the writing is just so smart and so creative, and so yeah, to your point of like, how do you keep track of it all? Like, I find that it's every time you watch it, I think you can watch an episode of Rick and Morty a few times, and every time you're going to like catch more and see more pieces that you might have missed in the first round. So I'm like Ian, you always have to double check and make sure, like, okay, am I following exactly what to be in this moment?
Can you guys maybe talk about your audition process? Spencer already talked about it. For her, it was like 15 years ago. For you, Ian, it is more like a fresh experience. But can you tell us a little bit about it? How was that? Do you know of any other people that were going into the audition? And how did you approach it, preparing the role?
Sure. Yeah, it was certainly more recent than when, it's just the past couple of years. But I also feel that we've really hit our stride, Harry and I, in just we go into that booth now, and we're ready. We're firing on all cylinders and trying to outdo the last thing we each did, each time we step into the booth. So it's really fun to be a part of the team and to be now, 3 seasons in. So 100 years forever, I'll just say that. But my audition process was in some ways like any other audition, in which, the agents send out a breakdown. We see that the roles become available. We, give our best shot and just try not to think about it, and then hope that it turns into something. But with this being such an iconic role, and it being sort of more widely publicized than most auditions, it was a little harder to maybe put it out of mind. And also, as a fan of the show, for me, I had to to keep my excitement in check while doing the work. Just think of it like any other job, but also I also revere these characters in the show, so I wanted to really put my best foot forward, and really did hope that at each step of the audition process that I was doing the job. It took about 6 months from end to end, from when I first submitted to when I got that call. And, it's still, I look back and it's such a crazy experience, crazy blur. But I remember later on in the audition process, it feeling kind of really real. They would bring us in with a vocal coach. They bring us into the studio. We'd meet the whole team. And I just have to give a lot of credit to our team who took care of the actors during the process. And, both vocal health wise, making sure that we were able to do the job and sustain the voice, but also, just in how they handled the whole process. It really put the show first, and it gave me a wonderful insight to what working on the show would be like. There wasn't a ton of attention from within drawn to the recasting. It was about making sure we could keep making episodes, making sure the show could continue on for season after season, forever, hopefully. And that sort of workflow and everybody's, just collaboration was really refreshing, and it's a very unique thing among shows in Hollywood, and so I'm just really grateful to be a part.
For you, Sarah?
Yeah, well, first of all, it was so cool when we heard Ian and Harry's voices for the first time, and then met them, and then saw them and saw those characters' voices coming out of their mouths. Like, they were both so incredible, and we all felt super lucky that they're a part of it. In terms of my audition process, it was, like Spencer, over like a decade and a half ago. And I had sent in a voice memo. Like, you can just send it in on your phone, like a voice audition. I think that's how I sent my first one in. And then I had a call back with Justin and Dan, and I was at my cabin, and I was on the phone, like on a landline, and they were giving me direction. I was up in Canada, and they were in LA, and there was all this noise. There was like dogs, and there was kids running around, and there was birds chirping in the background. And I was like, everybody, like, I was just remember thinking, like, I love this job and I want this job, and can all of the barking just cease for 1 second? And so I auditioned with them on the phone. I was actually the third Beth. Someone had recorded the pilot, and then another actress had recorded the whole first season, and it hadn't aired yet. And they wanted to make a shift. And so that's when I auditioned. And I remember going in and recording a full episode with Justin and Dan, and them saying at the end of the record, they were like, okay, the part's yours. And now we have a month and a half to record the whole first season, because everybody else had already recorded, and they were already, partway through animating it. And the pilot was fully animated. Like, when I recorded the pilot, I had to match the character was already animated, which is obviously unlike mostly in animation. You're just free and you're talking instead of actually almost like lip syncing into a spot. And so they said, we're going to record this all in the next month and a half, but I was actually going away for a month in 2 days. So we did the whole thing in 2 days, the first season. And then it was just the best job. And I feel so lucky that it's still going, and I hope it keeps going.
That's crazy. You famously spoke German in Scrubs, and I'm from Germany. So I was wondering, do you ever think that Beth might talk a little bit of German in Rick and Morty? Or
Ja, natürlich. Aber es war ja lange Zeit, seit ich Deutsch gesprochen habe, also vergiss da alles.
But it hasn't come up yet in the writing room or in the scripts or anything like that, right?
Nein.
I'm looking forward to that. Maybe I gave you an idea now. So
totally.
maybe ask Dan about that.
Why not, right? She comes back, Space Beth comes back from off planet, and she's just met some cool people in Germany. And I feel
two quick questions, maybe for the last questions. So, do you have a favorite alien sidekick side character? And for Ian, do you have to do the belches and the burps like real time?
Yeah, and I've gotten so good at them. Just ask my wife. Belching all the time. No, I have a couple tricks that I bring with me into the booth, but every burp that you hear out of Rick is an original. It's one of mine. We've built a library of burps that we can pull from, but I also live burp in the middle of the lines, giving lots of options. So my hope or my big spoiler is that I've been burping more in my life and in the booth. So hopefully you will hear some more of those classic Rip belches in season 9.
I love the concept of the burp library. That's amazing.
Oh, it's great.
And what about the favorite side characters like an alien? I love the slippery stairs guy from the season 1, from the very first season. He was like with Mr. Booby Buyer. He's one of my favorite guys ever in the show. How about you?
I always love a bird person episode, Rick's best friend. So that's always fun. But I mean, there's so many characters that pop up and end up being a mainstay or a new best friend. So excited to see.
I'm a Mr. Poopy Butthole fan, I guess, just because partly Beth shot him. Maybe there's some guilt there. I have all of the little Rick and Morty plushies at home. And so I remember when my littlest was like 2, she would play with them and she'd be like, I'm Mr. Poopy Butthole. And she's like having the best time. And then she's going to like her first day of preschool the next day. And I'm like,
Thank you very much, guys. We need to wrap, but Rick and Morty for 100 years and all the success to the show.
Thank you, Adam. Appreciate it.